Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be going through Cassante's runes and just a general rune rundown, and I'm going to be explaining why some certain runes are good and why some certain runes are bad, and just my general opinion and thoughts about the rune. Before we begin, this is going to be entirely my opinion. Like, lots of people have different opinions, 100%, I don't doubt that. Feel free to leave it in the comments, I'll most likely reply to it. But other than that, let's start off with the precision tree. So, fleet of footwork. Usually people take this into poke heavy matchups, you know, to sustain a little bit more from the little heal and movement speed. But I think it's pretty much the same as grasp, like in terms of poke matchups, because if your laners over there hitting you, you won't really be able to be hitting them because, you know, you have to walk up to them and then they're gonna hit you. It's not gonna work. And if you read it, it actually says 20% effective for melee champions from healing from minions. So basically, you get 10 health from hitting a you get 10 health from hitting an enemy champion, which is already like pretty bad. And then on top of that, you're only really going to be able to be getting to hit minions, and you're getting 20% of 10, which is pretty much just 2. And if I level up a bit, you can see here, it's still not really good, 63. Go here, you hit an enemy champion, it's pretty good, but still, even on the minion, doesn't really do a whole lot. And since it scales with AD and AP, which Cassante doesn't really benefit from, it's not really good, because Cassante doesn't really get AD or AP unless he's like all out, and that's like a small portion of the game. I see why people run it. It's just generally like not his best rune. Usually you're fine into poke matchups if you just go D-shield or second win. But the movement speed is also like pretty good. I like the movement speed, but there's just much better rune options out there. This doesn't really offer much other than that. Overall, I'm just going to rate it a 2 out of 10. Next up in the precision tree, we have Conqueror. Now, Conqueror is a very controversial rune on Cassante. Generally speaking, I think it's fine, but there are just so much better options. Conqueror is seen as like an all-in type rune, which in my opinion encourages extended and prolonged fights as Cassante early game, which Cassante you generally want to avoid since you literally just lose your entire mana pool as soon as you use your E or W like more than once or twice. So you literally just don't even want to be using your abilities early game in the first place because you just lose all your mana. So if you're constantly fighting, you're just going to run out of mana very quickly and you're not going to be dishing out a whole lot of damage. I think it's more valuable to just go grasp and get short trades off with your Q and back up. Since you're just playing for your level 6 spike, it's pretty standard in most Cassante matchups. You're just playing for your level 6 spike and then beating your opponent with level 6 or maybe your jungler. Let's say you don't fight early and you just play for your level 6 spike, it's fine, but you're not really going to be having an extremely long fight as an all-out Cassante, because think about it, you lose HP and you do more damage. It doesn't really scream an extended fight to me. It's more of just like a bursty type. In laning phase, of course. Maybe if you're against a tank, it could be decent, but early game into a tank, I would just preferably you should be stacking grasp procs and Q, because if you're trading into a tank a lot early game, you're going to run out of mana, as I said, and grasp is just generally better because it does percent health. Nothing about Cassante's R really screams long fight to me, because if you think about it, you're losing health and you're doing more damage. This just leads to the fight being over more quickly. And Conqueror gives bonus AD and healing based on damage, which Cassante doesn't really utilize AD scalings all that well, and it's a very it's pretty much just a lackluster scaling on his Q, and it barely affects his W damage. it might feel like Conqueror is great for those team fights where you're just going through everyone like butter when you're all out, and it might feel very impactful, but it gives comparable healing as to Grasp. Like, in a game with a bunch of melees, if you check your Conqueror healing, it might be like 1.5k, 1.7k, and that's just for the healing. And for the same game, if you go Grasp, trust me, the Grasp heals just as much as Conqueror does. Grasp is just a lot better in terms of healing, and it helps damage as well. So Conqueror isn't really a whole lot unique for the healing, or in terms of the healing aspect. Cassante in normal form doesn't really benefit all that much from Conqueror because he's a tank, right? You won't really be doing all that much damage, and since you won't be doing a whole lot of damage, you won't be healing as much because Conqueror heals you based on your damage. And since you're going to be in your tank form for the majority of the game, you're not going to be getting the full use of Conqueror's healing as to some other champions, because Cassante just doesn't do that much damage in tank form. So yeah, pretty much just the bonus AD you get from Conqueror doesn't really affect his damage all that much, and it really just doesn't provide that much in lane. It makes you a little more scary when you're all out, but even then you can just go Grasp and get pretty much equal healing. Or if you want to play for a level 6 power spike in lane, you should consider Spellbook since you get a free summoner. Conqueror follows the precision tree, which is pretty good for Cassante. Overall, I'm going to rate Conqueror a 5 out of 10. Anything Domination is just no, because the tree sucks for Cassante. It's almost never worth it because Electrocute, Predator, Dark Harvest, Hail of Blades, you don't really benefit anything from going these. And the tree also, you don't benefit at all from any of these runes like you might for Second Wind or Biscuits. So just generally, anything Domination, don't go it. 0 out of 10. For Sorcery, it's pretty much the same as Domination, but a little more different. The runes and theories sound really nice for Cassante, like Comet for poke, Airy for shielding, or Phase Rush for that nice little burst of movement speed. But the tree is just abysmal. Like Nullifying Orb, Mana Flow Band, Nimbus Cloak. Cassante doesn't really get any value from these, and maybe Mana Flow can work on him, but Biscuits is just 10 times better in every single way. Transcendence, Celerity, Absolute Focus, Cassante doesn't get any value from any of these either. And Scorch, Water Walking, Gathering Storm, these won't be impacting your game as much as a Second Wind, Biscuits, or even Last Stand might be. Overall, the keystones sound good, but the tree the follow-up runes in the tree are just really bad. 1 out of 10. Next up is Grasp. I think we all know this. It's a very solid rune for Cassante. It's insanely nice for trading, and the healing and health scaling is very good. It pairs very nicely when trading with your passive, which gives bonus attack range, which allows easier time proccing it. Only downside for Grasp is it can struggle into some matchups where applying it can be difficult. Like if you're against a poke matchup like Jace or Kennen, where they might not be walking into melee range all that much, you might lose a lot of value since you won't really be using it. And apart from that, the Resolve tree is extremely beneficial. Overall 9 out of 10 if you know what you're doing. Next up for the Resolve keystones, there's Aftershock. Now Aftershock, there's lots of speculation over this rune being good into matchups where you might not be able to proc Grasp all that much. But reality is the bonus resist lasts so short and it's almost impossible to get any value from this rune. If you hit a Q3 in lane, you're pretty much forced to walk into them to trade, and that's if you get in range, and by the time you get in range, the resistance will already be gone, and it's a pretty long cooldown honestly, and it really doesn't do a whole lot for you in lane. It just lasts so short, it's really hard to just get any value from it. Cassante also relies on repeated trades. Unless you're half HP, if you proc Aftershock once and then go all out immediately, you basically just get a ton of AD for like a second and then it's over. And that's even if you manage to get in range of the ranged person in the 2.5 second window. So let's say here, say we go up to level 6. Look at my AD. Okay, so if you hit Q3, they'll maybe be poking you. Let's say they poked you a bit and you're half HP. If you go in on them and then you ult, see you get 114 and then it bounces right back down immediately. It's not as good as people think, in my opinion. The following runes is, once again, extremely good for Cassante. And if you're looking for an all-in power type rune, you can consider going Conqueror, but in my opinion, the best power spike / all-in rune is Spellbook, and I'll get into that. Overall, overrated rune. I don't really see the huge usage around it. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. First up in the inspiration keystones, we have Glacial Augment. Now, it sounds good in theory, but the only problem is it scales with healing and shielding power and AD / AP, which Cassante doesn't really get a whole lot of. And since Gauntlet is one of Cassante's main mythics, you won't really be needing the extra slow unless you go Jacques Show. But then again, there's just other options out there, and you can just go Randuins if you really need a slow. Inspiration Tree is decent for Cassante in terms of boots, biscuits, cosmic, but yeah, overall 1 out of 10. Last up in the inspiration tree is Spellbook. I already made a video on this, so I'm not going to go like too much in depth, but the TLDR is that it's insanely good for playing into a level 6 all-in and win matchup, where you can't really hit your opponent all that much, basically can't utilize Grasp. This is a majority of Cassante's matchups, where you basically just sit and wait for level 6 and then all-in your opponent. And it's really good when you hit level 6, because that's around the time minute 6 is and you get your first swap, and then you can just exhaust your opponent, which denies them killing you, and it allows you to run them down as well, since they get slowed and their damage also gets reduced. It also provides, Spellbook in general also provides a whole lot of utility for the rest of the game. Like for Barrier, you can go your second swap before you get Gargoyles. It's basically another shield, so you don't get burst down too much when you're all out. Ignite is good for more killing pressure, basically just whenever you need more kill pressure, Ignite is generally good. Smite, you can swap to Smite. After 2 swaps, you can get a 1200 damage objective secure, and I've actually gotten a lot of Spellbook swap to Smite steals on stream, and it's really fun to do. It's really good and game-changing, because let's say you guys are on the verge of getting soul, and then your jungler dies, and then you have your swap up, and you say, hey, I can just swap to Smite, and then you can ult the jungler out of the pit, and then you can dash back in the pit with your extended E, and then smite the camp, or smite the Baron or Dragon. And another small tip is Cassante's W all-out damage to objectives is so insane. I don't think a lot of people know this, but if you charge your W for like a second or two when you're all out, on a Dragon or a Baron, it will do at least like 400 damage or 900 damage to Dragon. 400 damage usually to Baron. If you get that little debuff, it'll like half your damage. But to Dragon, it does like 900 damage. So basically, as soon as the Dragon gets to like 2.5k, just ult the jungler out of the pit, E back in the pit, do like a Q auto, W hold, and then right as your W hits, you can smite it as well. And like, what is the enemy's team supposed to do? And anyway, I just really like Smite with Spellbook. And then Ghost is insanely good for Cassante, because team fights are just a sweep for him. You basically just run down everyone. Ghost is just overall really good. Overall, an extremely high skill cap rune that has very good results when it's used properly. Inspiration Tree is great for Cassante. Once again, you get boots, you get biscuits, and you get Cosmic. And Cosmic reduces your summoner spell cooldowns, which is really good. 10 out of 10 when mastered. Might need time to learn how to utilize it because it is an insanely high skill rune. Even I didn't even really know how to use Spellbook, but I just picked it up because I saw it utilized biscuits and the inspiration tree, which is also really good for Cassante. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope that wraps up some questions and some ideas behind Cassante's most used runes. Once again, if you have any other opinion, please leave it down in the comments section. I will be more than happy to respond. But other than that, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Next up for Resolve Keystones is Aftershock. Now for Aftershock, there's lots of speculation over this rune being into good.